Thank you. Before we get started, I would like to also thank our host, the City of Venice, and the Admiralty. I think 1,000 years of partnership to build security is very, very impressive. That's the one that will stick in my mind forever. I would also like to thank the organization, EUNWA, very much, particularly Carl, who I met 3 years ago in Vienna. This is the second time that I present to this organization. And also Leonardo, because we're working very hard for a partnership here in Italy. I also quickly want to reflect on this morning. So I think in this morning there were quite a lot of themes that were recurring with the mayors in the palace. One of the things is that there was quite a lot of talk about, of course, security, because that was the theme, but also social security. And in my mind, you can only have social security if you have cohesion, if people know each other, trust each other, and work with each other. So I think that theme will also come back in the update on Nextdoor. The second theme I think was very important that I heard a lot is about participation and engagement between citizens, between each other, between neighbors, but also between authorities. And I thought that was very interesting because in modern days, in modern times, it's not so easy anymore to stay engaged, to meet people. Because we're all busy, we're all leading lives where maybe we don't have the moments anymore where we meet each other. In the old days, there were many moments where you meet each other, maybe in church, maybe in the bar, maybe at the marketplace, but now people live different types of lives. So how can we still stay engaged and participate in modern times? I hope I'll give a little bit of an answer to that in this. So 3 things that I would like to talk about. So one is I'll give a quick update on what Nextdoor is. Some of you might know it, some of you might not. Then I'll talk a little bit about what Nextdoor offers public agencies, particularly the police. I'll zoom into that. And then we'll talk a little bit about Nextdoor for Neighborhood Watch, which is obviously the most important theme of this afternoon. So to start with, what Nextdoor is. So Nextdoor is not a Neighborhood Watch app. In fact, only 10% of all of the conversations on Nextdoor are about crime and safety. But we do believe it finds a really important home in the conversations that people have on Nextdoor. So what is it? It is a social network completely dedicated to the neighborhood. So of course you can have conversations with your friends and family on Facebook, or with your colleagues or people that you studied with on LinkedIn. But what's the place where you can talk about the things that matter in a particular neighborhood? And that's what we're trying to build, a local place. And the interesting thing is that you can talk about all kinds of different things. You can talk about very basic things that happen every day, like you might lose your cat, or you might need a babysitter. And these are quite trivial things for most people, but not for the person who needs the help. Because if your cat is lost, you care about that. If you need a babysitter, you care about that. But there's also all kinds of social activities and conversations that you can have. You can meet people, you can invite people to have a barbecue or other event together. And then all the way on the right side, there are more important things, more essential things. This could be helping lonely people, or this could be getting cleaner streets, or it could be safer streets. All kinds of things you can do. And typically those more important things are a little bit more difficult to achieve. And it's good then that you actually know and trust the people with whom you should achieve it. You can't do it alone. And what we believe is that trust can be built by creating the connections, which is in the middle. And we believe that building the connections, it's fine if that's based on very trivial things. It's okay that if you're looking for a plumber, that's the moment when you start engaging with your neighbor, and your neighbor starts helping. So as a result, on the left helps what's on the right, and the right helps what's on the left and in the middle. It's all connected. And this is where it's fundamentally different from many other applications that are focused on one thing and one thing only. Either only on chatting or only on crime and safety. It's very difficult then to get this balance, to get people to participate, engage, and get to know each other. Nextdoor started about 9 years ago in the United States, in San Francisco. And for many years they only operated in that country. When they had half of the neighborhoods in the US online using Nextdoor, they decided to go to other countries. The first country was the Netherlands. I'm from the Netherlands, and I'm from Amsterdam. And they asked me to launch Nextdoor in the Netherlands, which we did in 2016. And because that went relatively well, we went straight into the UK, which is obviously a huge country. Same year. And as you can see, every year we've been adding a few countries. The last ones that we added were Sweden and Denmark. They're still fairly small, so if you see the last one, Denmark, we only have 100 neighborhoods, as compared to, for example, the US, where there's 200,000 neighborhoods. And if we're lucky, we'll continue to go to new countries. And hopefully, one day, we believe that we can provide value in every country in the world. Here in Italy, we started almost a year ago. I started with my colleague, Amadeo, who's here as well. And we started with a really nice event in Milan. At the moment, there's more than 2,000 launched neighborhoods. For us, a neighborhood is launched when there are at least 10 members. If it's less than 10 members, you don't really know if it's going to work. If you have more than 10 members, it will grow. Just to give you an idea, in the Netherlands, the largest neighborhood has 3,000 members. In San Francisco, the largest neighborhood has 60,000 members, one neighborhood. We started in Italy with mapping most of Italy, so we mapped the neighborhoods. We use people for that know a lot about city planning, they know a lot about sociology, and they helped us to create neighborhoods that make sense with a name that makes sense. So we've got 13,000 in Italy. And with that, if you look at the numbers, almost 23% of the mapped Italian hoods are using Nextdoor. Now, some of them, there's only 11 people, so obviously there's not much happening. In other places, there's a lot more people. To give you an idea, in Milan we have 585 neighborhoods that join. And we believe that, as I mentioned, that in the way to get cohesion is by actually being in the communities and help the communities to bond and be together. So Amadeo has spent a lot of time in many cities in Italy this year to actually do that. So we actively participated and helped citizens locally to create activities that can actually create connections and cohesion. So one is an art walk. In fact, there was already been 4 in Milan, and the whole idea was that people start to appreciate the art that is in their city and enjoy it together with their neighbors. The middle one is a benefit for a child that has a disease and needs money. And there was a local conductor who felt that he could actually bring in money from his own community by doing a concert on the streets. And then the third one is a large activity that we did in December last year, and we will do it again this year, which is called My Door is Open. I'm not going to try it in Italian because I will embarrass you. But the idea about My Door is Open is that in the days before Christmas, people actually proactively invite other people to spend time together. Because the insight is that there's a lot of lonely people everywhere, and particularly just before Christmas, people feel even more lonely because lots of people spend time with their family and friends, and some people are actually alone in that period. So these are examples of activities where we're trying to help communities to embrace the idea that you can do things together and build community. Now, in terms of Neighborhood Watch, there's quite a lot of ways that people that are engaged with Neighborhood Watch can benefit from a platform such as Nextdoor. One part is non-organized and the other part is organized. So the non-organized part is actually simply by using the app. Everybody is free to use the app. We do check if you live in the neighborhood, but if you're in the neighborhood, you can become a member. And just by being a member, you can actually actively participate in your own community. If you have ideas or guidelines or tips on how to be safer, you can actually, as a citizen, give them to your neighbors. That's fine. Of course, if you are a little bit more organized, you can present yourself as well as a community leader or a community leader that's actively involved with crime and safety and help people in those situations. If you hear back, if you happen to have conversations with local authorities, and you learn something that's interesting for your neighbors, you can communicate that. You can do that tomorrow, you can do that today. But there are some more organized approaches as well. One is specifically for neighborhood watch groups, and the other one is for the police, and I'll go into that in this part of the presentation. So the first part is the solutions that we've built for public agencies. So these are governmental organizations. It doesn't have to be the police. It can also be the municipality, it could be the fire department. There's many different ways that people can, that organizations can engage with their citizens using Nextdoor. It's a separate platform. It's a platform that we built. We built it because many years ago in the US, there were a lot of police officers and sheriffs that were using Nextdoor to communicate with their citizens. And we felt that it was not the right thing to do to have local governments in the conversations of citizens. We wanted to make sure that citizens can talk about anything they want to talk about between themselves without the government listening in. So we created a platform, and that platform is now being used by over 6,000 municipalities and police forces. So it's a tool where you can actually interact with real people. So what does it mean? First of all, you can have targeted communications. So if you are a police officer and you work in a particular district and you only want to communicate to that district, the tool allows you to geo-target your messages. If you are responsible for the whole city and there's a matter that's concerning the whole city, you can actually target the whole city. This type of targeting is very, very difficult in any other media. You can't do it on Facebook, you can't do it on Twitter. There are initiatives by governments, obviously, to try to engage digitally with citizens as well, but it's very difficult to get to the scale that is existent in some countries. So, of course, in the US, that scale is enormous. In the UK and the Netherlands, that scale is really, really big. In other countries, it's still growing. You can engage with verified residents. So these are people that actually live in a neighborhood, and they are a member with their first name and last name. These are not just people that you actually don't know if they're actually living in your constituency. And there's a lot of ways you can actually drive engagement. So you can put messages there, you can ask for information, you can do polls, you can give updates, so there's many different ways you can drive positive outcomes. And then, as a platform, there's quite a lot of experience. As I mentioned, over 6,000 services in the US, but also in Europe, we're learning already a lot and really fast. So, for example, the biggest police force, and I'll talk about it in a bit, in Europe, which is the Metropolitan Police in London, most boroughs in London already use actively Nextdoor. And also in the Netherlands, we have quite a lot of experience. So we're learning fast on how European police forces can benefit from a platform like this. So this is the Metropolitan Police. And so the interesting thing is that because the people are actually from that particular city, and because there is a more trust and a more open conversation between the citizens, the engagement is also much higher than on Twitter and on Facebook. So the middle one is Twitter and the last one is Facebook. And the engagement is the comments that people give on a post from the police. It's the thanks that people give. There's a lot more going on. And this is an example of a Metropolitan London police officer having community police in contact with the citizens. So that was the police. Now, in terms of neighborhood watch groups, we believe that that this particular approach, because it's embedded in a wider communication platform, not just about crime and safety, that it can increase safety, that it can protect against anxiety, and that it actually fosters collaboration. So how does it work? Well, for one, as I mentioned, there's all types of different communications on Nextdoor, but all of the communications that are around crime and safety are in one place. So if you are a user of the app and you only want to see the crime and safety reports, that's possible. So you can actually select that, you can get notifications only on that particular topic. So instead of having everything in one big environment, you actually have one specific place. Having said that, we do believe that all of the other things are important as well. So we prefer people to actually be part of all of the conversations in the neighborhood. But if you don't want that, you don't have the time for it, or you don't have interest, you can be very selective. The second thing is reducing social anxiety through the guidelines that we have and moderation. Every neighborhood has an ambassador. An ambassador is somebody from the neighborhood. It's somebody who's doing it as a community leader. They don't get paid by us. We know a lot of them, but only hundreds and not thousands, of course. But we have a lot of personal relations with these leaders, but we can't have it with everybody. And then the last one is that we've had successful pilots where local neighborhood watch organizations use, together with the police, the platform that we just talked about. So essentially, as an organization, you can then talk to a whole city. What does it look like? No. So an example of what that could look like is an example from the Netherlands. This is in a city called Hendrik Ambacht, which is close to Rotterdam, which you probably know. And so 2 years ago, we started working together with the mayor, who's on the left, with the police, and the local neighborhood watch organization. It was the local neighborhood watch organization that went to the mayor and said, we have to use this. We love this, we have to use this together. And they started using it. So there are actually 3 entities using the platform. So it's the police officers use it to communicate directly with citizens. It's the mayor and the security people of the mayor, and then it's the neighborhood watch organization. Now the neighborhood watch organization is by far the most active because it's citizens talking to citizens, it's neighbors talking to neighbors. So they've had over 300 messages that they shared with communities. Now over 165 replies came back from the neighbors, and over 1,800 thanks came back. So there's quite a lot of engagement. The municipality had 39 messages. So in the last 2 years they have 39 messages, which means like only a few messages per month that they wanted to share around prevention or things that have happened in the local community. So you can see it's really a platform for citizens, it's really a platform for neighbors, but there's a really good interaction between the 3 different entities. So Italy. As I mentioned, Amadeo and Leonardo have been working hard to see what we can do together in Italy. And particularly in the last few months, there were quite a lot of activities. Here you see a picture of an activity that we did together, where we went not on the streets, but actually in the space, to explain to people, give them prevention tips on the dangers of opening doors to strangers, the do's and the do not, the things that you shouldn't do in those situations. It's a collaborative action where we actually went together and meet people. Going forward, I think we lost one slide there. Sorry, just to give a slight thought here. In terms of the things that we want to do together, the second thing that we did recently was together we did a PR campaign, which was around how to stay safe when you go on vacation. So obviously this was before the vacation, not after the vacation. But together we went to the press to give tips what to do and what not to do when you go on vacation in terms of communication with your neighbors, which was really successful. The other thing that we're working on proactively at the moment is to see how we can use that particular platform that I just showed in Milan. And it's our vision that all of the 585 neighbors in Milan will have ambassadors using Nextdoor to be able to, together with the neighbors, help reduce crime.